How you doing?
Hey guys, and welcome to another fantastic Saturday Mega Wellness. I am Del with Mega Sports. Welcome. We are live on Facebook once again. If you know this location, you know that I am streaming live today from our Greensboro store off of Battleground Avenue. We are excited to be here. We've got a fantastic packed show. We are kicking off our new series called Ask a Doc. We've been promoting it all week. We've partnered with Wake Forest Baptist Health. They have given us pretty much access to all their fantastic doctors and experts. So we're excited to kick off the day today with Dr. Lucey. We're going to have him in the show. He's going to be answering questions about sports medicine, injury, joint replacement. We've got a lot of questions that you guys sent. So you're going to see me today working with some questions in my hands because I'm live today. I don't have the luxury of just looking at my wall like I normally do. But that session will be coming up in a second. We've also got some news that we broke on Instagram that I'll share with you guys once again, my Insta faves, as I share every single week. We'll have some great news from one of our friendly faces here in Greensboro. Cleo is doing a fantastic new project with Omega Sports that I want her to tell you a little bit more about. But first, before we get started, I want to go ahead and make sure that we talk about some Omega News. Omega News. So, you know, we send out emails every single day. We've got some new things that are arriving in our stores. We've got new availability of products that you love online. So I want to make sure that you guys are opening your email, that you're actually checking out all the new availability that we have online. And then, of course, this weekend, we definitely invite you to come into our stores, into our neighborhood sports stores, and have some fun. We've got great experts ready to help you and help put new products either on your feet or talk about great gear that we have. But today, if you saw your email this morning, we are going to be talking about the Nike Renew Run. So we are super excited to have Nike allow us to be able to have this shoe back in our neighborhood sports store. So I'm going to hold up a couple of models here. I'm going to put down my notes. I'm going to hold up the two versions that we have right now in our store. So this is the Renew Run from Nike. We've got the women's and the men's here. $89.99. If you're online and you're checking your email, we've got a lot of details that we put in the email, but certainly come into our stores and let our experts just answer any questions that you may have. But again, at $89.99, Nike has a fantastic, well-cushioned running shoe that we definitely want to make sure that all of our customers out there know about. You know, we know you love Nike. We know that we've carried Nike for so many years here at Omega, but to have a fantastic, affordable running shoe from Nike, we're super excited to have that. So I'm standing in the Greensboro store right now, fresh off the shelf. I just went ahead and grabbed this for you guys so that you guys can get a closer look. Let me hold that up there for you. Look at all that cushioning. Check that out. And then, of course, you know, a little bit more design elements here. If you checked your email this morning, you'll see I plated up really nicely in the email this morning. So a great shoe that I want you guys to know about. Of course, also, if you checked out our emails this week, you know that we're talking about Yeti. You know that we're talking about our recovery sandals from UFOs. And you know that we're also talking about new arrivals from fantastic running brands like Saucony and Mizuno. Mizuno actually has been blowing up this week. If you guys have been seeing our Instagram, our Facebook, and of course in our emails, we've been talking about the Wave Rider 24. So make sure you go to your neighborhood sports store, ask one of our active play experts for that shoe. Just ask for the Wave Rider and they'll just get it on your feet and you can test it out yourself. Again, if you are a fan of the Wave Rider, I have heard folks just rave about the new Wave Rider 24. So of course you can go online. We have more colors and more availability online. So if you're in a store and you see exactly what you want, but you want to maybe try a different color, you can always go online to omegasports.com and find the colors that you really want, and our experts can help you with that. All right. So that's my Omega News, and now I want to go to our new favorite segment called our Insta Faves. So earlier this week, we launched or we shared some great news about an upcoming launch that we're going to be doing at Omega Sports, and it involves one of our most favorite market leaders, Cleo Fawcett. Hey guys, so it's Del here. I'm at Omega Sports, and I am actually excited to welcome again our fantastic friend here, Cleo.
Hi.
Cleo, it's going to be an exciting time for you. I know we've had you on the show for a couple of shows already. I know that'll continue, but you yourself are launching your own show. So tell us more about
Our Women's Only podcast coming your way soon. It'll be great.
Yep. So, Cleo, you are going to be the host.
Yes.
And you're going to be talking to other Omega Sports experts that are females, and then some of our brands, really focusing on that women's only sports.
Yes.
Activity and just fun, right?
That's right. It'll be a great time for us to share any insight. We're going to be happy to share tips, recipes, exercises, anything that's going to just enhance women.
Now, come on, Khalil. You know we got to dance. All right, guys, so I'm always going to try to get a little segment of dancing in there. Cleo actually said that the customers are walking into the stores telling her, hey, I just saw you dancing on Facebook, or I just saw you dancing on Instagram. So I'm going to constantly try to get her to dance. She's busy with customers right now. Otherwise, she'd be here right now dancing. So anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching. Thanks for joining. If you just joined, you just missed a huge announcement, so I'm going to repeat it. So Cleo, our market leader and apparel buyer for Omega Sports, is going to be launching a women's only podcast for Omega Sports. It is going to be focusing on women's issues when it comes to health, wellness, how to take better care of yourself, and just, how to build more connections in the community, building that neighborship. It's going to be a fantastic show. Our team's going to be producing it with Cleo. I'm excited to see her continue to keep growing and building connections out in the community beyond Greensboro. But more importantly, just having a women's show at Omega Sports is really exciting. I know Kristen, our co-owner here at Omega Sports, is going to be on a couple of shows, and we've got some great things lined up. So make sure you continue to check our Instagram and continue to check our emails so that you can get more in the loop of what we have planned. And of course, if you have some great ideas, perhaps you're a community partner out there that we need to be talking to on this podcast, please send us a DM in Instagram, or just send us an email and let us know, and we'll be happy to connect with you. All right, so now before we jump into some of the most exciting things that we have going on in the show, I definitely want to make sure, as an InstaFave, every week we always talk about Dr. Clay Sankey of True Motion Therapy. He's out of our Charlotte market, and today he's going to be sharing a fantastic video because I know there are a lot of folks that are working from home. And working from home sounds like it might be an ideal situation, but a lot of that working at a computer, at the table, sometimes at your chair or your sofa, might cause a little extra stress on your body. So we want to hear from Dr. Sankey today on things that you can consider when you're working from home.
This is for all my desk workers out there. We are going to go through a proper ergonomics checklist. So now many of you are working from home, you're out of the office, and you don't have your normal desk with you. So you're probably working from your couch. Gosh, some people are working from their bed. Hopefully not. Maybe you're just working from a kitchen table and things are just a little off. They're just not what you're used to having at the office. And here in our office, we're seeing more cases of neck pain, more cases of back pain, because people's environment is different. Your work environment is different, your exercise environment's different. So when you're working from home, you want to set up your desk as best you can to mimic a good setup that you have at the office. So we're going to go through a little checklist that you can follow along with. Maybe you're sitting at your home office right now. Follow through on this checklist. See if you can hit all these points, and if you can't, then just make the simple adjustments. So, little disclaimer here. I don't spend a lot of time here at this desk. I'm up and moving around throughout the day, so my setup is not perfectly dialed in, but it's pretty close. If I were spending a lot more time here, I would certainly make sure I had it more dialed, but for me it works great for what I have. So for you, what I want you to just have a nice comfortable chair, something where your feet can be flat on the floor, your knees at about a 90-degree angle, and your back can be resting against the back of the chair. You don't want something so deep that your feet are off the floor or anything like that. So from here, we want to make sure that when your hands are resting on your workspace, okay, whether that's a desk or keyboard, whatever, that your elbows make about a 90-degree angle. We'll often find that people's desks are too high and their arms are up like this. That'll over time put more stress on the shoulders and the neck. So you want to make sure that your arms are at a 90-degree angle. Additionally, you want your keyboard and your mouse pulled in nice and close to you so you don't have to reach for them like this. We can reach forward, and that puts us into this slumped position, puts a lot of pressure on the neck and the shoulders. We don't want that. So you want to have that keyboard and that mouse nice and pulled in close to you. Now, if you're working from a laptop, make sure you have that screen angled up towards you so you don't have to try to meet it down like this. Ideally, if you're spending a lot of time at a desk, you want a monitor. You want something that's right here in front of you so you don't have to lean down like this. So have that monitor at eye level. Okay, at minimum, you want the top of the monitor to be at eye level. And you can adjust that by putting some books or some reams of paper under it, but you want that at eye level. Okay, so those are the three big things: monitor at eye level, keyboard and mouse in close to you, and elbow at 90 degrees. Now, if some of you have a standing desk, that's great. Nothing changes, right? If you just raise the desk up, just make sure you've got those elbows at a 90-degree angle and everything close to you like that. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. The big takeaway, though, is you can have all of this set up perfectly, but if you're just staying stagnant for 8 hours at a time, not moving, things are just going to hurt. We need movement. Motion is lotion, rest is rust. We need movement throughout our day. So make sure you're not spending more than 45 minutes sitting at one time. Stand up, do some squats, take a lap around the house, play with your dog, whatever it is. Just make sure you're not sitting for too long. And when you are sitting, make sure you're set up appropriately. Make sure you've got a good home base that you can be comfortable in. I hope that was helpful.
All right, well, as always, I want to thank Dr. Clay Sankey from True Motion Therapy. He's always one of our InstaFaves. He always does great content on Instagram. Make sure you are following him at True Motion Therapy. That's at True Motion Therapy on Instagram. And then, of course, you can always check out his website at truemotion.com. So speaking of being more active and making sure that you're moving a lot, those are the core principles of what we believe here at Omega Sports. So certainly if you're moving and you need some support, make sure you're coming to your neighborhood sports store at Omega Sports, or check us out online at omegasports.com. We've got what you need to keep moving. All right. So today, if you're moving and maybe you're moving a little too much, or you're playing a certain sport, or you're active and you're putting a lot of stress on your body, and now you've gotten to the point where you are injured. So today we are excited to be working with Wake Forest Baptist Health, their partners, their doctors, and their system to be able to give you guys even more guidance. So this is our new Ask a Doc segment that we're kicking off in partnership with them. And before we get started with Dr. Steve Lucey, orthopedic surgeon local here in Greensboro, answering some questions that you guys sent us, I want to go ahead and give you guys a quick update and share some information about Wake Forest Baptist Health.
Finish strong. Start here. Wake Forest Baptist Health, Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
All right, well, Dr. Steve Lucey, I want to welcome you. Thanks for joining us today here in Battleground.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, I just want to give you guys a quick note. We'll talk about safety, but as I'm on camera, I'm not wearing my mask, and I know we're here live at Battleground here in Greensboro, and Dr. Lucey was over to the side wearing his mask as we were working with customers, or as customers were walking around. But for today, we're going to go ahead and get a little closer so that we can have some information sharing when it comes to all the great things that you're doing. So let's first start with, sports medicine. Tell us about your practice. You're here in Greensboro. Tell us a little bit more about what you offer in this Greensboro market.
Yeah, so Wake has 2 orthopedic practices in Greensboro. My practice, sports medicine and joint replacement, where we do just that, sports medicine and joint replacement, head to toe, and then the hand center of Greensboro, which does just that, hand, upper extremity. And we've been partnered with Wake Forest for a number of years now, and that's growing. And Wake is fortunately looking into the Greensboro market, and so we're here in Greensboro, representing them and starting to do outreach with local sports clubs, schools, etc.
Right. And so just so folks know, so your practice here in Greensboro is the sports medicine and joint replacement.
Yep, we're at 200 West Wendover.
Right.
Just down the street.
So, Dr. Lucey, people are being, probably more than ever during this time of COVID, people are being really active. We love it because people are running more, they're walking more. Maybe they're not playing sports like they used to when it comes to team sports, but you get to see a lot of these athletes on a regular basis. What types of injuries are you seeing on a regular basis?
So, in COVID crisis mode, we're seeing more of the repetitive injuries, tendonitis, things like that, where people are just tired of being at home and they're getting out on their
It makes a lot of sense.
running and biking and so forth. So we're not seeing as many injuries like ACLs and meniscus tears and things, multi-ligament injuries that would occur in spring soccer or whatever, basketball. So a lot more of the repetitive type injuries, and also people going from kind of what I call the side of the road to the left lane. They go from 0 to 60, and they try to do boot camps and CrossFits because they're just
There's
tired.
a lot of folks out there,
and then they get injured.
Yeah. So what is it called? The COVID-15. People are, staying at home more. They're working from home. They're not moving as much. And so therefore, they're having, Grubhub and all these folks delivering food. And so then they start getting really active and they start signing up for everything and anything that they can, or they're doing virtual workouts at home.
Correct.
And perhaps they're not fitted properly, or they don't have the right gear, or they're overdoing it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And so, in your field, Dr. Lucey, you obviously get the kind of the negative effects of maybe all of that activity. And, I think, obviously it's great to be able to walk in every day and kind of help change people's lives and get them kind of back into recovery, back into sports, back into their activity. But really, it's more important to just make sure people are being safe and they're wearing the right, at Mega Sports, you want to make sure you're wearing the right footwear. If you are playing tennis, that you're maybe using the right grip. If you're a baseball player, that you're using the right size bat.
Right form.
Form is very important, kind of following those guidelines. So therefore, maybe they don't eventually have to go see you.
Correct.
So that's an interesting thing. Like you want a lot of customers, but what that means is you're dealing with a lot of aches and pains all the time.
Right. Yeah, in sports medicine, there's obviously the gamut between the non-surgical and the surgical.
Right.
So with those injuries that we see in club sports and school sports, there's enough of that, and then there's the other side is what you're referring to. So the repetitive overuse, improper form, improper equipment, old shoes, whatever. So there's a lot of healing and teaching, and then teaching how to not get back in that situation.
Right. So, and we help on both sides. So Omega would love to be able to help people, teach people, put them in the right gear so they never have to see you. And then, of course, if they end up having to see you, then you're helping them in how to be smarter after maybe a surgery or while they're in recovery.
That's right. And I do send a lot of people to Omega. Typically the foot and ankle type issues, the runners, even knees and hips. And I would say the most common thing that I see is that they'll wear a shoe for running, but they'll wear it too long. So the upper still looks good, but the cushion's worn out. And so they need to come back over and get another pair and get the right pair for them.
You heard it here. Change out your running shoes. Make sure you're paying attention to that. I mean, if you're running and you're putting a lot of miles on it, these shoes are not made for, everlasting, forever. You really do need to make sure that you're paying attention to that, especially if you're picking up your activity. That's very, very important. So it's a really great point that you made. Now, I want to just kind of spend a little bit of time on the pain side. We've got a lot of questions that we'll get to that folks submitted, but I want to talk about pain because there's one thing that I think you and I had a quick conversation prior. When people are dealing with pain, if they've, perhaps played a sport or they were very active and now they're sidelined, that can also take an emotional toll on an individual. So talk to me about kind of how you and your office interacts with folks that maybe there's a little bit more of an emotional impact that happens with injury. It's not just the physical pain of the actual body part, but there could be an emotional side to it.
Yeah, we really do try to engage our entire staff from the front door to the exam room. And I really ask my staff to help me with that because I'm moving pretty fast and my job is to diagnose and treat. But there is the emotional, social component to that patient and that injury. And so I really have asked my staff from the beginning of really starting my practice that when the patient comes in the door, to rooming the patient, to asking the patient how they're doing, and then before I go in the room, give, if there's something to share with me to help me dive deeper into the problem, the patient, the family, whatever, please let me know that. And so it's, not every patient, but it's a lot of patients where my staff will say, well, Dr. Lucey, make sure that you know that, whatever. And then so I have a great staff, but I've really asked them to help me with that.
Right. Yeah, because sometimes when we finally see the doctor, we try to trick you sometimes. We don't want to tell you too much sometimes. We want to make sure that we get as fast to recovery as possible. So sometimes having those deeper conversations may actually help you when it comes to, like, if I come in and I maybe was playing soccer and I had an injury and I'm just telling you about soccer, but you don't know that I love to ski.
Right.
There may be some conversation that I might be really sad because I had an upcoming trip coming up.
Right. Well, I deal with a lot of youth athletes as well. And you can imagine where you have, a bit of perhaps overzealous parenting going on. And you'll have the mom and the dad there, and then you'll have sometimes just the mom there. And sometimes you want to just speak to the
kick them out
to the teenager. And because they're feeling pressure, but they can't really express that with mom or dad or both in the room. So there's definitely an art to that.
Yeah. So if someone was dealing with pain, we'll get to some actual specific questions that we have here from some of our users, but or from some of our followers. But if someone's dealing with pain, I mean, we all try to be brave. We all try to power through it. What's an indicator, if you would, I mean, obviously it depends on the injury, but what are some indicators that, I need to now go seek help? Are there certain things, like, is there pain thresholds that you look for?
Yeah, I mean, most everybody that comes to my office is having pain.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of a relative discussion. We always joke because when someone leads and says, I have a really high pain tolerance, it actually means just the opposite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they actually they have a very low pain tolerance. But yeah, pain is what I call just God's indicator to seek help.
Yeah.
So whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, whatever, we need help.
Yeah.
And so don't have ankle pain, foot pain, shoulder pain, knee pain. If that's there for any length of time, then you need to be evaluated.
Yeah. Yeah, because it could get worse.
Yeah, exactly, and it could cause damage.
Yeah, and if I'm hearing my wife in my ear right now always saying, if you just would have taken care of this a few months ago when I first mentioned it, now I'm at the point where I've got to now go to a specialist or a doctor to and even the specialist is probably saying, man, if you would have come and saw me a few months ago, I could have probably done less and helped you more.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump into some of these questions here. So before I go into the first question, I do want to just do another shout out for Wake Forest Baptist Health. I mean, I heard you say great system. You love working with them. I mean, you also have all these great colleagues here in Greensboro that you can kind of work with and synergize with.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Wake Forest. I trained there. I did 5 years of orthopedic residency there. I've had family members have surgery there, including my own son having open heart surgery when I was a junior resident in orthopedics. So my entire 25-year history with Wake Forest, it's a great system with great, smart, honest, hardworking, talented people, and so it's really a privilege to be a part of it.
Yeah. Now, how did you get into sports medicine?
Well, grew up an athlete, played a bunch of sports, had a bunch of injuries, and as I kind of went down the road of medicine, it just kind of became a natural thing because I had the injuries, had been treated for the injuries, and have a real fascination with just the human body and anatomy and physiology and how it all works. And it was just kind of a natural fit.
Now, he's being modest. So, Dr. Lucey, I have folks here, including our owners of Omega Sports, that continue to tell me and brag about you. So I know you obviously were a decorated collegiate player, soccer. Is that correct? And then in your medical career, you've also done some fantastic things with some fantastic groups and teams and folks. Anything you want to share? I don't want to
really
make you name drop.
Played at Clemson. I'll drop that.
There you go.
Big Clemson fan. We did win a couple conference and national championships. And then I think you're referring to our conversation about the women's national team. I took care of the U.S. women's national team for 10 years, 2004 to 14, and great experience, great group of people.
Absolutely.
Fun stuff.
I just have to brag because, first of all, our producer, Mary, is a huge women's soccer fan. And so she was so excited to have you on the show. And then more importantly, just the fact that, here in Greensboro, we have someone of your caliber just working and helping folks and get into a better recovery state with whatever injury that they have.
Thanks.
So, yeah, it's exciting. All right, so let's jump into our first question. So our first question here comes from, I'm going to read these here because I can't read my screen here. Jeremy from Winston-Salem. And this one, I don't know why we had to start with this one, but let's start with this one. So Jeremy said, I've recently pulled my groin. That's what we're starting with. Recently pulled my groin. I didn't see a doctor about it, and eventually it got better. So Dr. Lucey, he would like to know, because he's worried, if you pull your groin once, is it easy to have, is it something that can continuously happen, or is this like, hey, it happened and you probably should go talk to someone about it and get some advice?
Yeah, that's, pretty basic, pretty straightforward one. I mean, we all have probably pulled our groin at some point, and it probably happened from not stretching well, not warming up well, doing something abruptly or whatever. So we're not necessarily at risk for doing it again.
Okay.
But if you did it in a soccer game and then it healed up, you probably ought to think, why did it happen? And did I not appropriately prepare for the match and not repeat the same thing over again? So it really kind of depends on a little bit of maybe background or context around the question, but fairly straightforward.
Yep. Now, have you ever seen someone go into that, I pulled a groin and it ended up being so severe that you had to go into a surgery?
No,
Okay.
not with a groin strain.
Okay.
I mean, there's always exceptions to to an answer. I mean, groin pulls can sometimes be sports hernias and other things, and they're originally diagnosed as a groin pull, but on a basic level, no.
Yeah, so they may really, really hurt, but if you're, stretching properly and you kind of go back to what you said, understanding why it happened, perhaps maybe just not do it again.
That's right.
Be a little bit more careful. All right, so Jeremy, hopefully that helped you. Kim from Morrisville says, this is an interesting one. We hear this a lot, so I guess this would be a great way for you to kind of weigh in on this. So Kim from Morrisville says, what's better for sore muscles, cold or hot therapy?
Yeah, both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah, it's a both for sure. Muscle fatigue. I first saw the first real passionate ice bathers with the women's national team, and they would, we'd be traveling somewhere around the world, and they would fill up a bathtub with 1/3 ice and 2/3 water, and they would take turns after training getting in those things and doing these ice baths. But they were amazing for recovery.
Yeah.
And right after an injury, you would ice. But for tight muscles and sore muscles, heat is also excellent and used prior to massage therapy, things like that. So it really is a rhythm and timing but they're both very, very effective.
Have you done ice baths before?
I have. They're not pleasant.
I have too, and they're not pleasant at all. But I will say you definitely feel reinvigorated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I feel like I'll do it again if I ever go to like Antarctica. I'll probably do that
If you're on a hike,
some dare or something.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So Julie from Raleigh. So Kim, hopefully that helped you with your question there. Julie from Raleigh. This is an interesting one. She said, what exactly is tennis elbow and when should it be treated?
So tennis elbow is tendonitis, inflammation in the tendon at the elbow. Tennis elbow specifically is on the outside of the elbow. They call it golfer's elbow on the inside of the elbow.
Okay.
I play a little bit of tennis, not much golf. But you could get either playing either. Tennis elbows with cocking the wrist back a lot.
Okay.
Golfer's elbow on the inside is with flexing the wrist a lot. So it's really the wrist movement, and all those wrist tendons come together at the elbow as a common tendon. And so it's just an overuse inflammation, tendonitis from a lot of repetition.
Okay. And so is it a true statement that you may not play tennis, but you still may have something similar to a tennis elbow?
I have tennis elbow right now, and I don't play tennis.
There you go.
And I get it from using a hammer,
there you
fly
go.
fishing, and
Fly
there are,
fishing.
a lot of things like that.
Yeah. So just the kind of slang version is
That's right.
tennis elbow.
That's
Okay.
right.
All right. So we hope that answered some questions. I didn't actually know that, so I appreciate that. Julie from Raleigh. All right. Michael from Raleigh, also from Raleigh, wanted to know any advice on how to avoid shin splints when running. And then he has a follow-up. Will compression socks really help?
So shin splints is kind of a catch-all term, and there's a couple different diagnoses inside of that, but it basically comes once again from the physics equation of running. So the surface you're running on, the shoe you're shock absorbing that load in, the distance that you're running, and the if you started from not running at all and now you're trying to run 10Ks or half marathons, then you're obviously more likely to get inflammation around your shin bone, your tibia. So training appropriately in the appropriate gear with an appropriate plan is really what prevents shin splints. So I tend to see them when, return to sport in the fall and people are doing 3-a-days and they've been on the couch all summer and then they get shin splints, things like that.
So it's an inflammation occurrence that's happening. And it's not like your bone is actually.
Well, it can, that's the bucket of the diagnosis. It can get all the way to that point of a stress fracture. But again, that's a different thing. Shin splints, generally speaking, common vernacular would be inflammation there from running maybe in old shoes on pavement too soon, too much too soon, that type of thing.
So those are it's your body's way of saying, hey, you're putting too much pressure, you're not properly doing things, your body's not okay with it.
That's right.
Hopefully giving you a signal so that you don't fracture something.
Right. And the compression sleeves, that's what we call anecdotal. Some people, they kind of like them, makes them feel better. Other people, it didn't matter at all. There's been no scientific study to show that they help. So I'm not against them, but they don't necessarily help everybody.
It's one of those things like if you're a runner and it makes you feel better and if it helps you, then go for it. We certainly sell them here in Omega Sports, but we're not going to sit here and say you have to have compression. It's really more of an aid. Yep. Okay. Well, great. All right. So let's go to Daryl from Charlotte. So Daryl's question is, I am a runner and I get frequent back spasms. I usually self-treat. So this is one of those self-treaters. But now I'm starting to feel pain down my leg. So back spasm now down my leg. What should I consider before I go see a doctor?
Right. That's a good question. So I am a fan of self-treating to a point. These days back, when I was younger and playing sports, we didn't have the internet to jump on and Dr. Google and what do I do about my back strain. So
but it also could be a bad thing too.
It can, but if you go to a medical site like Wake Forest or Mayo Clinic or Cleveland Clinic or something like that, or orthopedic practice, you're probably going to get some really good content that's available with home stretching, home strengthening, or whatever. So I think that's all okay, but pain down the leg, not okay.
Not okay.
Yeah. So there's basically two types of back pain. There's back pain that stays in the back, and there's back pain that goes down the leg. And anytime it goes down the leg, you need to be evaluated because you don't want to let a herniated disc or some other problem that could be causing it to radiate down the leg to fester at all.
Right. And it could be something that can be easily fixed, or it could be something a little bit more severe that you just definitely need to. It's always better to get it looked at.
Right.
No one needs to suffer with pain when, we've got great experts that can kind of quickly look at you, evaluate you, ask you the right questions, and then, hopefully get you some understanding, number one, and then number two, kind of getting you into some form of recovery. All right. Well, good. Now, he had this other question that says, what are things that I should consider before I go see a doctor? Now, great question on the back pain, but I just want to throw out a general question. When someone is dealing with pain, what are some things that they should consider? Like when you talked about looking at Google and some of these great orthopedic websites that are out there or informations that are out there. Is there like, if you could say, hey, a perfect customer or a perfect patient coming into a practice would know these 5 things? Is there a list that we can share with folks at home?
Well, I think being a good student of yourself and when it hurts, does it hurt at night, does it hurt only with activity? There's certain patterns of pain. So for example, tendonitis usually hurts when you start your activity like running, but then it actually improves, loosens up, and actually feels okay. So if someone says it hurts when I start running, but then it gets better as I run, versus the opposite of feels great when I start, but then if I go 2 miles, it starts hurt, then I start to think of different things. So just the quality of the pain, the intensity of the pain, the timing of the pain related to activity, just basic things like that.
If I said, hey, I need to tell a friend to go see somebody, and they're not in Greensboro, maybe, is there a way to like perfectly qualify what's a great doctor versus a practice? Are there things that we need to avoid? Are there questions that they should ask?
Yeah, that is an excellent question, because really that's the dark side of the internet are people who are trying to make money off of grading doctors and trying to steer people. So I probably shouldn't mention those websites, but if you pretty much put any doctor's name in the search engine, the first 3 or 4 are going to be ads for certain websites trying to drive you to certain doctors, and then they want those doctors to pay for them to have reviews on their site and whatever. So I would not recommend that at all. I would actually recommend good old-fashioned word of mouth. So if you have a whatever problem, it can be orthopedic or non-orthopedic, you want to, if it would be orthopedic, for example, you might want to call a physical therapy office in town or the hospital or something, ask to speak with the head therapist or the head nurse and say, hey, I've got knee pain or foot pain or whatever. Who would you go to?
That's an excellent tip there. Yep, absolutely. Just asking for those referrals. You may have someone in your family that's, knows of a great practice or a doctor, or more importantly, start with who you know and start kind of building that kind of tree of influence there. That's a great point. Speaking of influence, I want to let you know, so you've got two fans already chiming in there. So Craig and Kristen are both somehow separately updating the show, and they said, "Great job, Steve." Craig is giving you a thumbs up, and then Kristen says, "Great job, Steve and Dell." I like Kristen's response better.
Yeah.
There you go.
Craig and Kristen are old friends, and they're great people, and we love them very much. So really appreciate them.
Yeah. Well, and part of their passion is giving back to the community, building that neighborship, and then
Absolutely.
really keeping people active and moving
right.
and having fun, and working with great partners, because we know that activity and excess movement can sometimes lead to those injuries, and having great partnerships like we do with Wake Forest Baptist Health and with you here locally in Greensboro is a fantastic partnership.
Yeah. A lot of respect for Omega.
Yeah, well, great. Well, this is the first of many Ask a Docs. So, Dr. Lucey, I appreciate you coming in today.
Absolutely.
It's been great to have you. We've learned hopefully a little bit, and then I think the next one we're going to dive into more of that, surgery, recovery, different types of surgeries. How long does it take to recover? I think those are some questions I know are starting to pile up.
Great.
So we'll have you back on another show, and then of course, for folks who don't know, you can always just Google Dr. Lucey. You can go to his website. You can find him through the Wake Forest Baptist Health. You can check out some of the great videos, because you have some great content that you have on your site as well. So if folks are they've been told, hey, it's time for this replacement, it's time for you to get into this surgery, there's some really great videos that kind of walk you through what you can expect with the surgery.
Yeah. Work hard to do that.
Yeah.
Patient education.
Absolutely. And if you're just a medical geek like I am, sometimes you just watch those videos because they're cool. And it's great
cool.
that there are humans that can help humans get better and do fantastic things with.
I love doing surgery.
Yeah, there you go. Well, again, thank you for joining
You bet.
this Saturday. We will have you back in. We've got some of your colleagues joining us.
Great.
So we'll make sure that we post the schedules out there. I'm going to give you some quick shout outs here. It says Mike Williams, Mega Wellness, no mask. Well, when we're shooting live, we don't do masks, but I promise you, as soon as we walk in the store, we have our masks. I have my mask right here. Okay, Mike, there we go. And then Justin says, thanks, Dr. Lucey, for great information. Guys, it's been a great show. I appreciate your time here. We'll have more of the Ask a Doc series from Wake Forest Baptist Health in future episodes. And then, of course, as always, make sure we are open on the weekends. We're here to help you with all your active play needs at Omega Sports. You guys have a great Saturday. It's going to be a hot one. Be safe, hydrate, make sure you're stretching, make sure you're being prepared for any of the activities that you have. You guys have a great Saturday. Enjoy.